Yo, Shakur Stevenson calls out the Oscar Valdez protection that is being done with Oscar Valdez and Shakur Stevenson. We're going to talk about that in this video. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Listen, I don't know how you found my video, but somehow, some way you made it. Please help others arrive at the content by smashing the like button. It's free, it's painless, it's simple. It takes a few seconds. Now let's get into it. Shakur Stevenson, great dominant performance, best performance of his career, you could argue, against Jamel Herring. Post-fight, Shakur Stevenson immediately let you know what he wants to be next, and he called out Oscar Valdez. This is not the first time that he's done this. He's called out Valdez since they were at featherweight together. Now they're both champions. So they were both champions at featherweight at different times, and now they're both champions at 130 concurrently. And that's what he says. There ain't no other fight that needs to happen. That's the one. The fans want it. I want it. Blah, blah, blah. And Shakur Stevenson posted a video. Bob Arum had a show last night. He got interviewed, and Shakur Stevenson says, "Pay attention closely, y'all." And we're going to listen to what Bob Arum said about, this kind of trio of fighters, Valdez and Navarrate and Shakur Stevenson.
Shakur would like to fight Oscar, but I...
See, right then and there, the first thing out of his mouth said, Shakur would like to fight Oscar, but... So anytime somebody says a but like that, you already know what it is. It's like similar to when people say, not to be rude, but... and then they're giving you that preamble and that disclaimer because what they're about to say is actually rude. Hey, I'm not trying to be mean, but not to be rude, but that but means there's an excuse pretty much going to be made, or they're just trying to brace you. So the first words out of Arum's mouth was Shakur wants to fight Oscar Valdez, but so this shows that Bob Arum and Top Rank are well aware that Shakur Stevenson is trying to unify. And we're going to talk about that more, but listen.
Shakur would like to fight Oscar, but I think the Navarrate people, after their fight in San Diego, got me and they said that we want to fight Valdez next. And I talked to Frank Espinoza, the manager of Valdez, and he said he's talked with Eddie Reynosa, and they like that. They like the Navarrete fight. So if the two fighters want to fight each other, that's the fight we'll make.
And is Stevenson and Burchell also a possibility?
That's a possibility, yeah. I mean, we've got great talent in the 130 pound.
What if Loma comes down to 130? He could still make 130.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, the fight Shakur would like to.
So you heard it from the man in charge himself, Bob Arum. The first thing out of his mouth was Shakur wants the Valdez fight, so he's acknowledging that. And he says, but Navarrate and Oscar Valdez, Eddie Reynoso, Canelo's trainer, right? They like to fight with Navarrate. So it sounds like everybody is pretty much in cahoots working against Shakur Stevenson and his goals to unify, which should be the case. Now, this is the fake part about this game of boxing. Boxing's a dirty game. A lot of stuff goes on behind the scenes, won't, right? But this is the part that I don't prefer. Is this what happens? You can play keep away, and in boxing you play keep away, and if the politics aren't on your side for whatever reason, then you get relegated to, oh, he ain't fought nobody, or why is he fighting this? And that's precisely what's happening right now, right? You have Shakur Stevenson, who's adamantly calling out Valdez for unification, and he's pushing for it. But the fake part about boxing is now all of a sudden, old media, they turn a blind eye and pretend like they don't hear and see what's going on. That's why I got to make these videos. That's why I got to work 2 to 5 times harder than everybody else, because there's not many people that are going to stand for something and put this out to the public and put precedence on it. And that's exactly what's happening with Shakur Stevenson. He keeps telling you the man he wants to fight, why he wants to fight him. It's a great fight. But instead, Bob Arum is saying that, and I've made a couple of videos about this very situation at this point. Bob Arum is telling you that Shakur can instead fight a guy that got almost decapitated by Valdez. So so you look at it, you have the Latino or Mexican American fighter Oscar Valdez. He gets the better situation because Navarrate just beat Joet Gonzalez, who Shakur already had beaten, but he beat him up, messed up his eye and stuff like that. Fun fight. And Navarrete would possibly move up to fight Valdez, right? And then Valdez gets to fight this person who let me look up Navarrate's record because I don't want to misspeak because I'm not sure if he has any early losses. Let me look at it though. I can look that up. Emanuel Navarrete. Because I want to say he's undefeated, but when I was thinking it, I was one. Yeah, he did. I knew. See, I was about to say he's undefeated, but then I was like, nah, I think he got a loss, and he does have one loss. But he's been on a tear, and that's the point. Oscar Valdez, he's a champion in the former division, and Oscar Valdez would be getting to fight that. Meanwhile, Shakur Stevenson, if all goes to plan what Bob Arum's saying, Shakur would have to fight Berchelt, whose last performance he looked pretty bad, and he looked almost weight drained, and he got annihilated with a knockout punch by Oscar Valdez. And this is what you see perpetually happen to black fighters. Like black fighters, Cameron Duncan, he came out and did an interview and said that Top Rank has an NBF list, no black fighter list, and they'll match make accordingly. And that was, I don't know, earlier in the year when the interview came out and first broke, the NBF interview. And instead of disproving the interview with actions, it looks like Cameron Duncan was definitely telling the truth because you see NBF being applied right here and now. Again, this benefits Navarrete and Oscar Valdez, the two Latino Mexican fighters. Navarrete has an 80% knockout ratio. He has like 36 fights, and he has 29 of them by knockout. So he's on a good tear, and he hasn't lost in a while. And then Oscar Valdez just barely won Robinson Casasio. I thought he lost the fight, but that's a whole nother video. But before that, earlier this year, he fought Miguel Berchelt. So them facing each other, the fans, they're going to look at that as like, oh, that's a great fight and this is a big fight. But meanwhile, Shakur Stevenson got to fight Oscar Valdez's leftovers, and he, in turn, has been calling out the actual man that knocked out the man. But then he got to fight out the guy, the knockout the guy that got knocked out instead, because Top Rank and Bob Arum don't want to make the fight for Shakur Stevenson to Oscar Valdez, which is really what needs to happen. And it's crazy because you won't see old media call this out. The other thing that makes this crazy is Navarrete is not even in the same weight class as Oscar Valdez right now as we speak currently. And he just moved up to featherweight not too long ago, if I'm not mistaken. So the point I'm making is this. What happened to seniority? Like Shakur made the plunge to 130 already. Navarrate's not there. And Bob Arum was like, oh, because the two teams want to fight. So what does that tell you about Eddie Reynoso out of Canelo's gym? What does that tell you about him? Because Bob Arum says the two teams want to fight. So does that mean Eddie Reynoso doesn't want to fight Shakur Stevenson? And this is what happens. You end up seeing African-American fighters and black fighters exiled and shunned and not be able to get the work, sometimes Cuban fighters as well, and not be able to get the type of fights that they desire and that they're really, really pushing for in favor of other fights because of a variety of different reasons. And I think that's wrong. I think that's real wrong because the better fight, is Shakur. The bigger fight for sure is Shakur. Navarrete is not, he's cool. He's a good fighter. He's a good little fighter, but he's not a big name. He's not a big name, like people just checking and nonstop talking about Navarrete. Shakur he did good numbers on ESPN, and he's an Olympian. He got cosigns from Jay Prince. Floyd was even trying to sign him outside the Olympics and blah, blah, blah. Shakur, he got a bigger engine. He got the OVO, Drake, OVO cosign and things like that. And then Top Rank trying to make Navarrete fight. And then Shakur Stevenson, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Then the fans are going to look at Shakur Stevenson and say, oh, you're fighting Berchelt. He coming off a loss and a knockout. and they're not going to give him that much credit because, truth be told, Shakur looked great, but his style is different than Oscar Valdez. And what more can he really do than a potential knockout of the year type of knockout that Valdez had over Berchelt? You know, it's going to be hard to top that. Shakur could body him and make it super one-sided and then maybe stop him or knock him out or beat him on the cards. But all in all, it doesn't favor him the same as if he would get a unification with Oscar Valdez. Shakur Stevenson talked about it. He said, Bob meaning Bob Arum, Bob talking like I'm a challenger for Valdez's belt. It's a unification fight for the both of us, LOL. How do you allow this 126-pound champion to move up and get the fight I've been asking for since I was at 126, which is basically what I just told you. Shakur Stevenson was a featherweight. He became a champion at featherweight in lieu of Oscar Valdez ducking him and moving up to 130 before him. Oscar Valdez, all of a sudden, there was fights he wanted. He said he couldn't get them. So he said, oh, I can't make weight no more when Shakur Stevenson became his #1 mandatory. So all of a sudden, Oscar Valdez was unable to make weight when Shakur was encroaching and closing in on being the mandatory for his belt. Then he moves up and flees to 130 and later fights Berchelt. And then now they're talking about, Bob Arum's talking about Navarrate getting an opportunity. And he just moved from the lighter weight classes to 126. And then because he beat Shakur Stevenson's leftovers, Joet Gonzalez, he going to get a Valdez fight. But the black fighter, Shakur Stevenson, been calling out Valdez since 126. He's been calling him out at 130 after a dominant performance. It's like, what does Shakur have to do? This is absurd. Shakur, people said he was boring. You know, even me, I said his last performance with the African, to me, it was kind of boring. It was kind of a boring performance. Like I expected a little bit more. But the way he turned up for Jamel Herring, that was different. And then, so it goes to show you whether he's boring and doesn't get hit or if he's action-packed and doesn't get hit, people aren't trying to see him. And this is the experience for certain black fighters that are as good as Shakur Stevenson. It's just the reality of it. You can't justify it no other way. And it's absurd that, you know, all these other people can get the fight right. Robinson Conceição could get Valdez fight, no questions asked. No one knows who he is. Navarrate can move up another weight class and get the fight. But then the guy that is the easy shoe-in, he's having all these difficulty to narrow that gap and get the fight. Let me know how I did in this video. I'm out. Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TubeBuddy. I've used TubeBuddy for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TubeBuddy is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TubeBuddy and level up your channel faster.